What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you 5 essential tips for Weird West. Weird West is a recently released title that is all about being in the Wild West, but with fantasy, making it quite weird. So today we're going to be talking about 5 tips just to kind of get you started, help you out along the game here. And jumping right into it, the first of those tips is simply do the bounties. As the game progresses, at every single stage, the best way to make money is to do bounties. Now, you do have to get past the initial tutorial mission, if you will, but after that, you can start checking the bounty boards in towns. Now, a few important notes about the bounties. They are a slight mix of radiant quests as well as more structured bounties. Most of them are radiant, meaning that every once in a while, every few days or so, they'll kind of generate a generic villain, if you will, go collect a bounty on them. However, in addition to that kind of thing, as part of the main story, if a villain were to, say, get away for some reason, or, something were to happen to them that results in them not dying, they will usually show up as a bounty later on in the game. And those particular bounties tend to be a bit more structured, but in both cases, the bounties are the best paying thing in the game. You will get hundreds of dollars for them, and even selling the best equipment in the game usually will only net you like 30-40 bucks, and usually much less than that. But now that we've talked about the best way to earn money in the title, let's talk about some of the ways we can spend that money. First and foremost, on a horse. So horses will do a few things for you. For starters, they will make it extremely easy to traverse the map as you will travel around the world map in a much faster fashion. In addition to this, horses are essentially a free ticket out of random encounters. So if you get ambushed along your road or whatever, having a horse means that you start combat directly next to that horse, and you can use that horse to immediately escape the encounter if you should so choose. But the other thing that comes with a horse is saddlebags. Saddlebags are storage, as you might imagine, but there's a few important things to note about the storage. For starters, the storage just is. So if this particular horse happens to die and you go buy a new one, all of your stuff from the old horse will be on the new horse. Which, doesn't make a lot of sense, but this is also a game with werewolves and magic and everything else, so here we are. Now, more importantly, though, the saddlebags will actually travel across characters. So if you're unaware, Weird West is a sort of anthology where throughout the course of the story, you play about 5 different characters, and each of these characters kind of has their own thing going on, which we'll talk a bit more about here in a minute. But one of the easiest ways to transfer equipment across characters when you know you're about to switch is to just put your stuff in saddlebags, because the horse that the next character, or any other character for that matter, accesses will be the same inventory as the previous one. And on that note, as sort of a freebie, as you progress the game and you start becoming other characters to play through that part of the story, you can go recruit the previous heroes as companions, which are clearly marked on the map, so they're pretty easy to find. But in doing it this way, you can actually just go get that character and get anything out of their inventory that you would need. But horses tend to be easier, especially if you don't want to recruit that person as a follower for some reason, because recruiting them as a follower is what gives you access to their inventory. So you have some options in accessing the previous character's inventory, and I imagine just that knowledge alone will help people out quite a bit. But from there, let's talk about upgrades. So in the game, there's a variety of weapons, but primarily they are pistols, revolvers, shotguns, a bow, or a melee weapon. Now, all of your weapons are upgraded with the same materials: copper, silver, and gold. So as you traverse the map, say like you're doing some bounties or something, you might find nuggets of ore around the game world. However, if you go to mines specifically, which are oftentimes where your bounties are holed up, you can find just ore veins laying around. And if you find a pickaxe, which is usually in the vicinity, you can mine this ore. And then you can use that ore to upgrade your weapons. However, in order to do so, you have to go to a blacksmith. Now, the exact amount of ore you need to upgrade each weapon to its next tier is displayed on the weapon itself, so all you have to do is mouse over it. But there are in total 5 tiers of weapon. There's basic, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and that's as far as you can craft. There are 5-star weapons and things. However, from what I've been able to tell so far, those are exclusively bought in stores. I've only been able to craft up to 4-star stuff. Now, when it comes to upgrading weapons, it's incredibly easy. The ore from the mines is very accessible, so once you have weapons you like, you can just go upgrade them very easily. as long as you know where to go get the ore from. And when you're on the world map and you mouse over the locations of like mines and things, it will tell you what kind of ore is there. So it'll be a copper mine, a silver mine, or a gold mine, making this, again, very easy to do. And then we come to the second version of upgrades. So in addition to weapons, we have access to a few different types of armor, basically just a vest, but the type of material the vest is made out of will change the stats a little bit. And this is like snake hide, deer hide, bear hide, that type of thing. And in order to upgrade these, you need the appropriate animal hides. Well, as you traverse the world, you're going to be running into these animals, be they deer, snake, etc. Now, it's not enough to just kill these animals and then hopefully take their hide. No, you have to go to a tanner in town, which will of course be one of the shops you have access to. And from these merchants, you can usually buy a skinning tool bag, and then you use that skinning tool bag on the dead animal to then produce the hides, which will then allow you to upgrade your vest, which will mitigate some of the damage and make you tankier. So that one is a bit more involved, as animals can be a little harder to find than the mines, which are usually in set locations. But nonetheless, that's how you upgrade your armor and weapons, which you can do at any time very quickly, which has made the game much easier for me personally. Now, next up, let's talk abilities and perks. So progression in this game comes down to abilities and perks, which you increase by finding items. In order to increase abilities, you need to find nymph relics. In order to upgrade your perks, you need to find golden aces of spades. Now, these items for the most part are pretty plentiful. You'll find a lot of them. The tip here is actually that perks are not character specific. They will transfer their progress over. So regardless of where you are in the story, your perk upgrades will apply to every character equally. However, you might be wondering, why bother upgrading the abilities and things for each individual character, which are character specific? Well, the answer is pretty straightforward. As I told you earlier, you can go recruit the previous heroes from the earlier chapters of the game as companions. And depending on the equipment and the abilities that you took the time to grind up for that character, they will have access to them as your follower, which will make them pretty much the best followers in the game, as you might imagine. So the abilities you purchase for those characters when you're playing as them is what they have access to. So even though the abilities won't transfer directly to your new character, if you go recruit them as a follower, they will still get to use them. They will also be using the appropriate equipment that you gave them while you were playing as them. However, you can access their inventory and everything even after you're playing someone else. So if you recruit them as a follower, you can still give them equipment. So I wouldn't worry too much about that part of it. But you can't really do anything about their abilities after the fact. And then for our last tip, honestly, it might be obvious to some people, but it took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize it. Abilities for your characters fall into two categories. Character-specific stuff, so abilities that the character that you're playing as right now can use, and then there's the weapon abilities, which you also have to purchase. To use the weapon abilities, you need to actually aim your weapon, and then it will update the contextual menu down on the bottom there. So you activate your character abilities by not aiming, and then you have the appropriate contextual menu there. And then when you want to use your weapon abilities, you aim the appropriate weapon, and then it will bring up the abilities that you know for that weapon. And I figured that one might seem obvious, but it took me like way too many hours to realize that, so I decided to throw it in on the end here. But there you go, guys, some tips for playing Weird West. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of it, truly, thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.